The sky beyond the tracks. In the town of Willow Creek, the sky seemed wider than anywhere else, a stretch of pale blue that could swallow you whole if you stared too long. The train tracks cut right through its center, slicing the town in two like a wound that never fully healed. On one side were the weathered houses, each with porches that groaned under the weight of years. On the other, the rusting grain silos stood like sentinels, their metal skins whispering in the wind. 17-year-old Lena Mae had grown up on the porch side. Her life was measured in the rhythms of this place, the whistle of the morning train, the scent of rain on old wood, the fading echo of her mother's voice calling her in for supper. Her dream was not to leave Willow Creek forever, but to lift herself high enough to see the world from above. She wanted to fly, to become a pilot. It wasn't the sort of dream people here understood. Most kids her age were set to take over the family farm, work at the diner, or maybe, if they were lucky, land a job at the feed mill. But Lena's eyes were always tilted upward, toward the sky where the clouds drifted like silent ships. Her father, a quiet man who fixed trains for a living, rarely spoke about her dream. He'd only say, "Flights take fuel, Lena. And fuel costs money we don't have." Still, he would leave the old aviation magazines on the kitchen table for her to find, their pages worn at the edges. The first spark of defiance came one autumn afternoon when Lena saw a single red balloon break free from a child's hand at the county fair. It rose higher and higher until it was nothing but a dot swallowed by the sun. To her, it wasn't just a balloon. It was freedom, a promise that something could escape the gravity of this place. From that day, the balloon became her private symbol, a reminder that she could rise too. Yet the town's weight was heavy. Schoolmates whispered, "She thinks she's better than us." Teachers, though kind, urged her to be realistic. Even her best friend, Rosie, once said, "Dreams are fine, Lena, but they don't feed you." Lena's heart hardened, not in cruelty, but in resolve. She took on weekend jobs, washing dishes, stacking feed sacks, even sweeping the dusty floors of the town's only bookstore. Every dollar she tucked into a shoebox under her bed felt like another feather in her growing wings. But just as her savings began to feel real, life struck like a sudden storm. Her father's hand was crushed in a coupling accident on the tracks. The medical bills came like a tide, pulling her dream under. That winter, she worked double shifts just to keep the lights on. The shoebox emptied, and with it, the quiet hope she'd been nursing for years. Still, on nights when she couldn't sleep, Lena would step outside, gaze at the empty winter sky, and tell herself, the tracks aren't a wall. They're a starting line. Spring came late that year, as if the seasons themselves had grown hesitant. Lena's father spent long hours in the armchair, his hands stiff and wrapped in gauze, his eyes fixed on the muted flicker of the television. Silence sat between them like a third presence, one neither dared to acknowledge. One afternoon, while sweeping the bookstore, Lena found a tattered memoir wedged behind a stack of romance paperbacks, Wings of the Horizon. The cover showed a young female pilot, her goggles tilted toward the sun. Inside were stories of crossing storm fronts, landing on desolate runways, and the sheer terror of trusting the wind. Lena read it in stolen fragments, each chapter a match struck in the dark. But the turning point came not from the book, but from a stranger. He arrived in Willow Creek on a freight train that rumbled in at dusk. A man in his 60s, skin weathered like driftwood, as sharp as frost. He browsed the store, purchased nothing, and on his way out noticed Lena tracing the map on the back of her book. "You read that one?" he asked. His voice had the rasp of someone who'd swallowed a lifetime of dust. "Yes," Lena said. "Then you know the sky doesn't wait for permission." He smiled, the kind of smile that carried both warning and blessing. "I flew for 30 years. Cargo, mostly. If you want a chance, show up at the airstrip east of town tomorrow at dawn." She almost didn't. It sounded too much like a story people told to test the gullible. But at 5:30 the next morning, wrapped in her father's old flannel, she biked toward the thin smear of light breaking over the horizon. The airstrip was little more than a stretch of cracked asphalt, weeds pushing through the seams. The man stood beside a faded yellow Piper Cub, its wings catching the first fire of sunrise. "You want to fly?" he asked. Lena nodded. The first time her feet left the earth, her heart pounded so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The town below shrank to a patchwork of fields and rooftops. The tracks, once a dividing line, now looked like a silver thread stitching the land together. From above, she saw what she'd never been able to from the ground. Willow Creek was not the center of her life, just the place where her story began. The old pilot taught her basics: how to read the wind, how to trust the instruments when her instincts screamed otherwise, how to land with the grace of falling leaf. He never charged her, only asked that she show up ready to work, cleaning the hangar, checking oil, logging maintenance notes. Her father found out weeks later. He said nothing for a long while, just studied her face as if searching for proof of the girl he thought he knew. Then, quietly, he said, "If you're going to do this, do it with both feet off the ground." And for the first time since the accident, his eyes held something alive again. By the end of summer, Lena had saved enough for her first official flying lesson. The day she held the control yoke alone, guiding the small plane into the open air, she thought of that red balloon, the way it had risen until it vanished into the sun. She realized now it hadn't disappeared at all, it had simply gone beyond what she could see. She would, too. The end. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you never miss our latest uploads. Let's grow this community together! Enjoy learning English!